Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching 90 Day Fiancé. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. As I always say, don't use YouTube as a replacement for therapy. If you need a therapist, get one. You deserve it. You really do. Let's watch.
Flight and I'm leaving.
Jenny?
Go away, not talking to you.
Baby. Baby, open the door at once.
Ah!
Listen.
No, I don't want to listen. No, I'm not listening to you anymore. I don't want to hear nothing.
Okay,
no,
calm
don't
down.
talk anymore.
So I think what Jenny is experiencing right now is a legit and understandable meltdown when we have flooded emotions. We have all, I'm guessing it's just I think it's been 10 years or something that she's been going through this, and all the lies and the waiting and the pressure and the being in another country and giving up her life, and maybe a lot of the internet comments calling her stupid. I mean, that's something we have to think about that they don't often go into. I kind of wish they would, that all of these people, if they're paying any kind of attention to what's being said on the internet about them, they're being bullied on the internet, a lot of these people. And I really hope that none of y'all participate in that. It's really mean. These are human beings, and they are putting their lives on display for us to, have entertainment. And I think we should have a lot of compassion for them. I don't think they're rolling in money because of being on a show like this. Anyway, so there's all the pressure that she's under. And I also think that she has been suppressing a certain amount, it's just total speculation, of feelings of, I feel like I'm being tricked. I feel like he doesn't care enough about me. I feel like he's lying to me again. But I'm going to suppress that. I'm going to forge ahead, assuming that he's not lying to me again. I'm going to forge ahead, assuming that we will get married soon. I'm going to forge ahead, assuming that he does have the resources or the gumption to marry me. And whenever there was another crisis, she would have a blow up, but then she'd suppress that. And I think right now it's just like it's all coming out. And I also think she's worried that he's going to convince her. He's going to smooth talk her into going, because I think what she's faced with now is going back to the United States and then coming back yet another time on the promise that he is going to face the consequences of his culture and marry her. As I've also said, I don't think he's a con artist. I think that he is dealing with an extremely difficult situation that I have a hard time relating to, because in Seattle, we don't have this kind of anti-divorce culture as much. We don't have this kind of way that parents will dictate the lives of their children well into adulthood, the way that I've heard in India. A lot of y'all have emailed in or commented below. And, I knew about arranged marriages. I knew about stigma of divorce in other countries for sure. But I don't think I viscerally understood it until this. And I think it's educational, this show. And I think that's part of the reason why people watch it. But anyway, so I think for Jenny, she's like, no, I've been down this road before. I've been here before, and you convinced me, and I don't want to have that happen again. So don't talk to me. I think that's what's happening.
Calm down first of all.
No.
Sit.
No.
Annie, sit here now, please. Sit.
What are you going to tell me now?
No, I'm not gonna tell you anything.
Okay, then what?
I just only force you to calm down.
Okay, I'm calm. Now what?
You're not calm right now.
Okay, no, I'm not.
So I wonder what he's going to say here. I think it's fine that he wants her to calm down because he wants to be able to connect with her, and he feels bad. I think he legit does. But unless he has something real, definitive to say here, but even if he said something, if you're Jenny, or like you've said this before. So I think at this point, if I were Jenny's friend, I'd be like, look, proof's in the pudding. Either he sets up a date and it's for sure and you're going to get married, or you're not. And I will, it reminds me of dealing with, and it's not exactly the same, obviously, of dealing with people who suffer from addiction. You will have a friend or a family member or a spouse who is suffering from some sort of addiction, and there'll be these moments where they'll calm down, I've got it under control, or I'm going to go to AA, or I'm going to stop doing it, I'm going to go to therapy. And then you get sucked back in, and then 6 months later you're right back where you're starting. You're like, how did I get here? And when I am counseling, people in situations like that, whether they're in my personal life or clients, I will eventually get to this point where I will say something like, well, it might be wiser to, if they say they're going to do something, you can appreciate it and you can hope that they do it, but you don't go into a mode of assuming that they will until they do. Proof's in the pudding. When they actually, and what I'll tell, I have a friend who has a close friend who suffers from addiction, and my friend gets sucked in a lot to that, addicts or the person suffering from addiction, their difficulties. And my friend gets harmed by it. And of course, the person suffering from addiction is, harmed by it a lot, and they don't have control over it, and they have their own relational traumas. Is the reason why they do use. But my friend will give me updates and say, oh, they are getting help. And over the years, over literally like 20 years, I eventually told my friend and said, look, for your own sake of self-preservation, I wouldn't, because you've heard a lot of promises. You've heard a lot of things. Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, I'm going to do that. You've seen them hit rock bottom and think, well, certainly now they're going to get help. Until they have a year of sobriety and a year of going to AA meetings, then you can't know if they're actually turning the corner. It might look like they're turning the corner. They might say they've turned the corner. But until they have 365 days of going to meetings, and maybe 3 months in the beginning of going every day, then you really just have to hope that they'll get better and do what it takes. But you can't bank on it at all. Proof's in the pudding when it comes to addiction recovery. And so for Jenny, I would say to her as a friend, look, proof's in the pudding. Either you're about to get married and the date is set and the parents know and the announcements are made, or they're not. And you can say lots of things, but until you actually see those things, or you might even say until you actually officially are legally married, because he could pull out of it at any point, then you just can't really know anything. And you can hope, but I wouldn't believe him because he's said so many words that have not come true.
Because of the pandemic, I've been able to get extensions.
What do you expect from me, Sumit? What am I supposed to do?
I expect you to just behave like a very calm person and act according to the situation.
So I don't think it's very fair of Sumit to tell her to calm down. I think her feelings are completely justified and a long time coming to some extent. So this attitude from him of like, calm down, what's wrong with you, I don't think is fair at all. I also wonder if for him, he's used to his mom having a lot of emotional breakdowns like this. We've seen them like that, and he might be flooded himself and traumatized by the emotional display that she has. Total long shot, and I've talked about this before, there's no way to know from what we've seen, but I've seen cases where you have someone like Sumit who grows up with a mom who is very unreasonable and has a lot of emotional outbursts and is unfair a lot and histrionic and imposing and demanding, and you internalize that relationship between you and your mom. So you internalize the histrionic, demanding, emotionally volatile mom, unfair mom, and then you internalize yourself, a vision, a perception of yourself, and you have this relationship that's become internalized. Then later on in life, through projective identification, you will project one side or the other, and you will manipulate someone particularly close to you to agree with one side of the projection. Maybe you'll project yourself, and you'll be like your mom, and you'll socialize someone to be like the way you felt when you were doing that, or you'll project your mom, and you'll identify with the self side of that object pair, and you will socialize someone else to be like your mom. I hope this is making sense. I've talked about this before, and listen to all my deep dives on projective identification. It's a really powerful model and explains a lot of weird relational behaviors that we do. And it's possible, speculative of course, that Sumit has internalized the mom and is projecting that onto her and trying to socialize Jenny to act like the mom. Because if we just look at the surface, we see Jenny having this explosive emotional outburst and rejecting Sumit. Well, we might surmise that the mom would have big explosive emotional outbursts and would reject Sumit over unfair things. And so right now, Sumit might be socializing her to do that by the way he approaches her and also by refusing to get married. And then he's identifying with the self. Now, why do we do this? Well, we do this for a variety of reasons. One, we're comfortable with this kind of, we become comfortable with the way we're treated, with relational feelings or vibes or flavors, if you will. So the flavor of his relationship with his mom it just becomes comfortable, and it becomes like your template for attachment. So recreating it is a way of doing that. Another reason why we recreate these is because we're trying to work it out. It didn't work out between Sumit and the mom, and so he might be recreating it in this subconscious attempt to rework it. Another reason is because without projecting it out, it's still inside of us and it's warring inside of us. One side is like saying, you're a piece of crap, and then the other side is saying, I don't want to be a piece of crap. And it's easier, strangely, to project it and to make it external. It feels less stressful to have it on the outside. It's still stressful, but it's more stressful. It's less stressful than having it on the inside of us, where the self is attacking the self. Anyway, so I don't know. It's possible because he seems to be treating her like she's hysterical, like she's unreasonable in this moment. And then also we have to ask ourselves: is there a bit of sexism in here? Like, oh, women and their emotions. Who knows? Let's watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pandemic is not something created by me or my parents. Otherwise, if there's no pandemic, then we both can go to Nepal for a few days or for some time, and then we can come back.
Yeah. So if I understand the situation right, Jenny's laughing because she's like, this isn't the pandemic's fault. This is your fault. Now, I understand where you're coming from, Sumit, where your situation is, it's not easy to get married. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of consequences, but you keep telling me that you're going to marry me. You keep telling me that you're willing to take those sacrifices and marry me, and yet you're not. And that has nothing to do with the pandemic. And I think that's why she's lying. That's why she's laughing.
The plan was to go to Nepal and stay there and then come back to India and reset my visa for another 6 months. But now Nepal's borders are closed. To make matters worse, Sumit's passport got taken from him by his ex-father-in-law. So he's not going to be able to go with me anywhere.
And this fits into my hypothesis about Sumit. And some of y'all have actually given your own stories, living in India, and dealing with parents that are extremely invasive and controlling from a very early, since you were very young, and learning that the only way you can live your life is to lie and to create almost like this second life away from your parents. And Sumit definitely seems like a candidate for that kind of defense, that a necessary defense that he had to engage in from a very early age. And so I think what he sees subconsciously or consciously as his perfect world. Well, so let's go back to when he was like 15 years old or something. And who knows, but let's say he liked a girl at school and he wanted to, I don't know, give her a note or kiss her or hold her hand or something. But she wasn't the right sort of person for the parents. Who knows? Yeah, I'm just completely speculating. And which actually is interesting to think about if Sumit had some kind of early experience like that would become recreated with Jenny. Anyway. And he feels highly compelled to hold this girl's hand or to talk to her or to kiss her or to ask her to go to a soda shop or something or whatever they do back then in India. And but on the other hand, he knows that his parents won't let him and will become very upset. But on the other hand, he's like, but they control everything I do. And so in order for me to live any kind of a life, I have to create a second life away from them. I have to go home and act the good boy, and then I can at least do some things outside. And so you do this, you rinse and repeat this over and over and over and over again, not only just with that one relationship with that girl at school, but hundreds of other instances where you have this bifurcation of home life where you act one way, and then the real world life where you act a different way, and you think a different way. At home, you think the way your mom wants you to think, and outside in the real world, you think the way you want to think. And your brain almost becomes two different brains. Not literally, but you know what I'm saying. And I think for him, that's possible that happened. And some of you have actually emailed in about that mental process that you go through. And so I think for him right now, he's thinking, so the perfect world is I can go home and say, no, I didn't marry her. I haven't married her. But then in the real world, he can be with Jenny. So he doesn't marry Jenny, but he's with Jenny. Because I think, he wants to be with her legitimately. So I think he's in that mode of like, okay, how can I work both things? How can I get both? Now, of course, he's self-destructing because Jenny is like, look, dude, if we don't get married, I'm done with you. So I think his brain is like having a hard time grasping the reality of what's happening because of the way in which he was raised, and he couldn't grasp reality. So let me explain that. So if he grew up that way, or at least somewhat akin to what I'm talking about, reality is, there's two different realities. Mom dictates one reality, and then the real world dictates a different reality. And so you have to know that reality is amorphous. And so you have to live life as though there are different reality. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. Let's watch.
How are we supposed to be together? I can't stay
We
with
were
you in your
living
country,
together
but I
10
can't
months.
stay in India.
Then what?
What do you mean then what? How are we supposed to be in a relationship if
Then
I
you can
can't
come
stay
back,
here?
Like we can go out. That's what we decided, Jenny. Don't.
How do you know I can come back?
What do you think? You will never able to ever come back to India?
Who knows?
And so this reality thing of, look, you have, Jenny, you have your reality, but I have my reality. And that might actually be a defense of like, I'm not going to listen to your reality because I know that I know that other people have realities that don't make any sense to me, and I have to defend myself against other people's reality, which can come across like you don't have empathy for other people. And it's interesting that he's almost treating her like he would treat his mom, like someone that has crazy thoughts, unreasonable thoughts. He's like, I don't understand. Why can't you just accept the way to do? We can just go to Nepal. We can renew the visa, and everything will be fine. But because of the situation he went through early in life, he doesn't have a grasp on reality. Not that he's like schizophrenic, but he's in a state of denial essentially. And he also it's harder for him to listen to opposing realities, if that makes sense.
I want to be with you. I love you. And you know that. And you also love me. If the situation, hard time come and good time come, we have to handle it together.
And I think that's true. I think that he does love her, and I think she does love him. And if I were his therapist or his friend, I might explore the possibility, I don't know, but I might explore the possibility of like, look, it sounds like deep down, you don't really want to get married. You don't really, at least now, in the short term, you don't want to incur the consequences, which I understand. So how about you just accept that about yourself? Because if you wanted to get married, you would be taking the steps to get married. That doesn't mean you don't love Jenny. It doesn't mean you don't want to be with Jenny. You do want to be with Jenny, but you just don't want to incur the consequences. So what if you just told Jenny, look, I'm not ready to get married because of the consequences, but I do desperately want to be with you. So let's figure out a way that, if possible, we can be together without getting married. Maybe we live in Nepal. Maybe let's explore. Let's brainstorm. Maybe there's no solution there, but I'm realizing now that I keep running into this procrastination around getting married because I'm terrified of the consequences emotionally and practically and legally. So let's explore that. I wonder if he would take to that. And I wonder if Jenny would be like, finally, you're just being honest with me, because I keep hearing about this marriage and the wedding thing, and you keep not doing it. At least you're being honest with me about it.
I'm going back to America. I don't know what to tell you. I'm going back, and I don't know what's going to happen with us.
Maybe I failed Jenny. I promised her a lot of things which we didn't do. But at the same time, I do feel like the Jenny is kind of overreacting.
Yikes. Overreacting. 10 years. I mean, maybe she's not necessarily mostly angry at him. Maybe she's just angry at the culture or his family or something. But I don't think she's overreacting at all. 10 years. lied to multiple times, not only catfished in the beginning, but lied to about the fact that he was going to marry her, lied to about that because he got married to someone else. You know, we understand that it wasn't his fault that he was forced into that, but he could have told her, you know. So, yeah, I don't think she's... And plus, this is the reality. There's no other option. Unless I'm missing something, there's no other option. She has to go back home. Her visa is up. There's no... You know, they're trying to figure out another country to go to in order to renew the visa and come back or something. And there's no option. Nepal, everything's closed with the pandemic. So by leaving, she's just following the law. How is that overreacting?
We already decided, like it was our plan that we're gonna leave the country after every 6 months. But this is not my fault. Nepal borders is closed.
Oh, that's interesting. So according to Sumit, they had developed this plan. Every 6 months they would leave and come back and renew the visa. So that lends itself to the possibility, which I think is interesting in terms of the flexibility, that they had actually talked about, look, how can we stay together without actually getting married and incurring the consequences of actual legal marriage? So maybe they actually had already talked about that. It still doesn't invalidate Jenny's feelings at this point. She's just like, look, you know, okay, that's not going to work because the pandemic. How about we just get married?
He's saying like you have to join SCON. You know what is SCON?
No.
SCON is International Society of Krishna Consciousness. You must be heard about the people singing Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, like in the New York and everywhere.
Yeah.
They pray to Krishna.
So wait, in order for her to stay, she has to convert to this other religion and lie to the government while they're filming it so the government can watch this and find out that she's committing fraud.
Hare Krishna, we are brought up seeing him as a superhero. I can imagine Jenny as a Hare Krishna devotee, but it's gonna be a little weird imagination because she is a very free spirit. It's a loophole.
To keep me in India.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jenny is skeptical, as am I. I don't know, obviously. We got to trust the lawyer's statement about this, that it's just a loophole and it doesn't require anything of you. You just sign a paper that says you're Hare Krishna and everything works out visa-wise. If that's true, then that's an option. Yeah, for sure. But it seems too good to be true, doesn't that? All right, well, that does it for that episode. If you haven't already become a patron of the podcast, you can do so now by using the link below or going to patreon.com. Becoming a patron shows us that you like what we do here, really. And that's the single most important or most effective way that you can show us that you like what, if you want to support us and help us to keep going, make more content. Becoming a patron is the thing to do. And I know a lot of you have already done that, and thank you so much, really. It really is great. Whenever I get an email, it's a notification that someone becomes a patron. It's just really fantastic. And for those of you who already are patrons, if you can become an annual patron, that helps us out with planning for the future. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.